No matter how big a ring starts out, it shrinks when you wear it. And okay, so this ring was like $250,000, but when you look at it from the point of what Tommy's getting, me, it makes it seem cheap because I am priceless, said Bethina conclusively. Oh, I said, starlets must be exceptionally good at figures because I could never have come up with that equation. Is it true what I read in Liz Smith, that he gave you the drowned truck? How romantic. And listen, even if there wasn't a ring, I'd agree to an engagement with the hottest photographer in New York. What a fabulous career move. And you'll get so much press when you break up with him, but just make sure you end it before anyone thinks you're really going to go through with it. I must have looked beyond upset because Bethina suddenly put her arm around my shoulder. She patted me as though I needed comforting. Gosh, I'm sorry I say the worst things, but you're really going to marry a photographer? It's just everyone gets engaged here all the time and they don't really mean it, especially with really creative people like your fiancé. She gasped, embarrassed. I mean, there's no way I'm marrying Tommy. Ew, gross. Shall we go talk to your guy? Gosh, look at him. He's unbelievably cute. Bethina started walking towards Zach. I held her back and whispered, Actually, do you mind? It's just we're not getting on brilliantly tonight. I mean, actually, he's not really speaking to me. He's real stressed about work. I was pink with shame. Hey, don't worry about it. My first 2 husbands hardly ever spoke to me. It's very common. Don't be upset. You know what they say. The only thing important about a husband is to have one, she giggled. Oh, I'm not upset, I said, suddenly bursting into tears. I'm just, madly in love, and, being in love makes you cry almost all the time, doesn't it? I'm going to the restroom. Nice to meet you. I was completely freaked out. The minute I was out of earshot of the party, I called Julie from my cell. I wanted to kill some time while I tried to calm down. Hi, Julie Schmooley, I said. I'm having a really fun time. Is that why you're crying like a Balenciaga bag that lost its buckle? She replied. Is something wrong? I told Julie that I was happier than I'd ever been in my life, that there were apple martinis everywhere you looked, and that Le Cirque symphony of desserts was just delicious. I was just calling to say I wish she could have been at the party. Honey, when you're drinking martinis and your martini glass is full of tears, you gotta ask yourself, is the universe trying to tell me something? Said Julie. Oh gosh, when Julie starts talking about the universe, I worry about her. It means she's been reading an unhealthy amount of horoscope books again. But maybe she had a point, even if she was getting her information from Moon Magic, how to cast a natal horoscope. Zach's acting weird, but I can't explain now. I gotta go, I said. Okay, feel better. Call me the minute you get back. Love you, mean it later. A few minutes later, Daphne found me sitting miserably on a bench outside the restroom. When she saw my tear-stained face, she said, Oh my gosh, what happened? Has Bradley been mean to you? No, it's Zach. He never gave me a ring, and Bethina started asking me where it is, and I don't know, I feel terrible, I sobbed. Get out! If anyone else asks you about the frigging engagement ring, tell them you got the drown truck instead. Which would buy 6 engagement rings, okay? When a man gives you something personal like that, well, that's real love. Listen, Bradley went to Neil Lane for my ring, but so does everyone in Hollywood. Doesn't mean a thing. Julia Roberts has like 15 rings from there, and look what happens to all her fiancés. You know how I know Bradley really loves me? When he brings me tea in bed when I'm sick with something really catching like SARS. It's the small things that count. Now, can I see a smile? Hey, that's better, said Daphne as I grinned hopelessly at her. You gotta look radiantly happy and in love if you want to feel radiantly happy and in love. Here. Thanks, I said, taking a Kleenex from her and wiping my eyes. I guess I was totally in mood swing central that night because as I walked back into the party, I was overcome by a spontaneous feeling of giddy happiness. Daphne was right. A drowned truck is much more significant love-wise than a ring. It's just a bit of a drag you can't wear it on your ring finger so that everyone else knows about the significant love too. I thought of all the adorable things Zach had done when we first met, and I sort of hypnotized myself into a wonderful, Smiling paralysis that lasted the rest of the night. I felt my appetite disappearing again, which was a relief. I was definitely still in love. Daphne led me back into the sitting room, which was now a blur of pastel dresses. The room was crowded with a million girls dressed exactly like Bethina. They were all frantically dissecting some movie that hadn't even come out yet, starring Keira Knightley, who they'd all be channeling when they were done with Kate Hudson. All the boyfriends and husbands were hanging on to their beautiful girls as though if they let go, they'd never see them again, which was probably Trey smart of them. I didn't feel at all Kate Hudson-ish either, which was definitely a handicap in the current surroundings. My murderous dress was totally wrong for tonight, way too New York. What was I thinking, wearing black in Los Angeles? I just wanted to go home. Ooh, there's Charlie Dunlane, said Daphne, dragging me toward a young guy sitting alone on one of her huge white sofas. Then she added in a whisper, he's so cute and he's a genius young movie director. Well, that's what Bradley says. I haven't actually seen any of his movies, but don't tell him that because Bradley's trying to sign him. Can you go talk to him while I check on the chef? Daphne introduced me and then disappeared to obsess about the canapes or something. Even if Charlie was as cute as Daphne thought, I didn't notice. No one was as cute as my personal Jude Law. Speaking of whom I couldn't see anywhere. Hopefully Zach was having a wonderful time with the mogul type somewhere elsewhere in the party, even though it was freaking me out that he was being so utterly evasive tonight. Are you okay? Was the first thing Charlie said to me when I sat down. He looked concerned. Was I that transparent? My paralytic smile was obviously Trey unconvincing. Yes, I couldn't think of what to say. What's wrong? He said. People can be really rude sometimes, can't they? I mean, I hardly know this guy 3 seconds, and already he's asking personal questions. It's hideous, absolutely hideous. Nothing's wrong, I said, collecting myself. I'm having a wonderful time. I'm so happy tonight I can't eat a thing. Not even Daphne's incredible desserts? Are you sure you're all right? You don't look very happy. I am fine. 150% totally great fine, I said, attempting to close that particular line of inquiry. So, how's New York? Said Charlie, getting the hint. How do you know I live in New York? The dress. It's pretty serious. Actually, I call it my homicide dress because it's so dangerous, I teased, breaking up a little. Thank goodness for Azadine Alea. As in clueless? Asked Charlie, chuckling. Totally, I laughed. Parentheses, one of my favorite movie moments is when Alicia Silverstone freaks out in Clueless about her Alea dress getting dirty. How do you know about that? I asked. I'm a movie geek. Everyone in the movie business worships Clueless. You have to study that film if you work here. I'm not kidding. Maybe Charlie was kind of cute. I mean, he knew about Alea, which was a major plus. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't a patch on Jude Law, but you couldn't deny he had a great smile. His dark hair was sort of messy. He had unusually blue eyes. And he dressed kind of untidily in jeans and a rock and roll t-shirt and old sneaks. But he sort of looked cool with it, like most LA boys do. Then he had these funny school teacher glasses on that he occasionally pushed up on his head. He was a little tan, as though he'd been surfing or something in Malibu. He seemed disarmingly frank and open. Of course, I like something rather more complicated, like Zach, I reminded myself. You want to see something dumb and clueless for real? Said Charlie, grinning. Sure, I said, relieved that my mood was lifting. Okay, so here's what happened the last time I met a girl as pretty and happy and underfed as you. I took a sip of my drink like this. He sipped his Coke through a straw. And what happened was this. Somehow the straw bounced out of the glass, hurtled through the air, spraying Coca-Cola on the gorgeous white sofa, and lodged miraculously in the side of Charlie's glasses, sticking out at a right angle. I laughed, and he said, and that's why I am officially the biggest loser ever when it comes to women. Coca-Cola dripped drop by drop from the straw down his cheek. Charlie made a face as if to say, see? But you're funny, I said, giggling. Funny's funny, and that's that. I mean, even if I secretly thought it was incredibly rude of him to have pointed out that I possibly wasn't radiantly happy when we first met, he was definitely amusing. Girls can't resist a sense of humor. And then you're a director too. I bet you have some really beautiful actress girlfriend, I said. Nope, no girlfriend right now. Well, do you want one? I never think about it like that, said Charlie. Girlfriends are one of the few things you get less of the more you want one. But yeah, it would be nice. Everyone wants to fall in love when it comes down to it, don't they? Suddenly, I thought, Julie, she's desperate to fall in love. If he tried really hard not to do the straw trick in front of her, Charlie might be the perfect PH for her, especially since he knew about important fashion icons like Alea. I knew she'd said she didn't want a creative type, but maybe she needed to broaden her horizons. How about if I set you up with one of my friends? What kind of girls do you like? Happy ones who can't eat a thing, he said flirtatiously. Oh, I'm taken. I'm engaged to him, I said coyly, gesturing at Zach. He had come into the room and was now standing in a far corner with his back to us. He turned momentarily but didn't see us. Handsome guy. Look, I can hook you up with a girlfriend of mine, but you've got to be more specific. Exactly what kind of girl do you want to date? Charlie paused for what seemed like forever before he answered me. Then he looked me straight in the eye and said, someone exactly like you, which was slightly uncomfortable for someone as radiantly happy with her fiancé as moi. I shook the ice around in the bottom of my glass, so I thought of something to say. I'm in New York a lot for work right now, said Charlie, breaking the silence. Cool, I'll set you up at my engagement party, I said. I thought this was your engagement party. This is my Los Angeles engagement party, but my friend Muffy's throwing one for me in New York. Everyone's so nice to you when you get engaged, it's completely impossible. Would I have seen any of your movies? I doubt it, he said. They're an acquired taste. Are they art house, I asked. No, comedies, he exclaimed. The trouble is I think they're funny, but no one else does. Most people find my work depressing, but I say there's no comedy without tragedy. Unfortunately, the studio heads don't agree with me. Now, would you like to see the Star Trek again? I was pretty happy driving home after the party. Seriously, after Daphne had rescued me, I'd left all night. Everything was going to be okay with Zach again soon. I was sure of it. I tried to talk to him as we drove along sunset toward the chateau. It was only 11 o'clock, and I guess I wanted to smooth the way for some Latin American activity when we got back. Darling, even though I'm radiantly happy, I'm très depressed, I said quietly. Oh gosh, that came out all wrong. I hadn't meant to say that at all. Are you going to ask me about sex again? Said Zach without taking his eyes off the road. You're obsessed. It's so fucking weird. Finally, Zach was talking to me. It was a breakthrough of sorts after the last few days. Did he have to be so gruesome, though? Sometimes New Yorkers can be a little too direct for a demure girl like me, even one who's realized she's probably more sluttish than demurish. Sweet pea, I wish you wouldn't say that. It's not very romantic, I replied, half joking and half trying not to weep, which was all I really felt like doing. You are so fucking superficial. You think a relationship is all about sex, and it's fucking not. It's a lot fucking deeper than that. Zach was really upsetting me now. Still, I tried to keep it together and be sweet. I didn't want this to become an issue. But, darling, we're not best friends. I mean, most people make love with their fiancé. I'm not most people. That's why you're with me. I'm a photographer. I don't live by other people's rules. I am what I am. You're so selfish. You need to get a decent value system. Zach jammed on the brakes and stared into the blackness of Stone Canyon. He looked furious. What had I done? It's all you, and whether or not you're getting laid. Stop going on about the same fucking thing. Zach was freaking me out even more than Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. And I found that book so freaky that I only read the first 12 pages, so I don't even know the half of it. I guess I was so shocked by what he'd said that I couldn't say a thing in reply. Finally, he started the car again, and we drove back to the chateau in silence. Hopefully everything would be okay again when we got back to New York once the Luca shoot was out of the way in a couple of weeks' time. And I reminded myself no one's perfect all the time, especially me, so I really couldn't complain. Even if Zach had been cool toward me tonight, I was still nuts about him. And then started wondering what, in theory, it would be like being engaged to someone warmer but less handsome, like that funny movie director. Of course, I put the thought out of my mind almost immediately, so I think of it as a thought that doesn't really count. Ew, a movie director? Are you kidding me? Way too creative. Julie's reaction when I told her I wanted to set her up with Charlie was exactly as expected. We were at Bergdorf's a week or so later for a painted highlight, which is the in highlight now that foiling is over, according to Ariette, who can be completely trusted regarding serious hair-related issues. The reason everyone is obsessed with the Bergdorf salon, which covers the entire 9th floor of the store, is because it's so relaxing there that you can totally forget icky things, like the fact that your fiancé has barely conversed with you for the last week. The place is just bliss, actually. The floor has been divided up into 3 airy salons, a huge reception area, which always has the most incredible vase of cherry blossoms on the table, a cutting room and a color room, which is where Julie and I were hanging out. There are mirrors, makeup tables, and manicure and pedicure stations everywhere you look. Assistants dressed in matching lilac blouses bustle back and forth, bringing you iced lattes and apple sorbets, and there's even a whole person, Shirley, devoted to eyebrow shaping, which has actually become a profession in itself. The entire place is painted pale violet, and from the windows that wrap around the floor you can see all the way down Park Avenue in one direction and right across Central Park in the other. Who wouldn't forget they hadn't had sex in 3 weeks at the Bergdorf salon? That place is sex.